Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the U.S. Liberty, watching the stars through the main view screen. The ship had been traveling for 3 weeks, searching for new worlds that humans could call home. Earth was getting crowded, and people needed more space to live and grow. "Captain, we're picking up something strange," said Commander Kate Sullivan from her station. She was studying the readings on her screen with a worried look. "There's some kind of beacon out there, about 2 million kilometers away." Jake walked over to look at the data. The Liberty was one of Earth's newest exploration ships, built to find new planets and make contact with other intelligent life. For 30 years, humans had been sending peaceful messages into space, hoping to meet friendly aliens. So far, they had found nothing but empty worlds and silent space. "What kind of beacon?" Jake asked. "It's definitely not human technology," Kate replied. "The signal is very complex, but it's repeating the same message over and over. Dr. Carter thinks she might be able to decode it." Dr. Lisa Carter was the ship's expert on alien languages and first contact procedures. She had spent her whole career preparing for this moment, the first time humans would receive a message from another species. Jake found her in the science lab, working frantically at her computer. "Doctor, what have you found?" Jake asked. Lisa looked up from her work. Her eyes were bright with excitement, but there was something else there too, something that looked like fear. "Captain, this is incredible. The message contains mathematical formulas that are universal. Any intelligent species would understand them. But there's more. There are star charts, coordinates, and what looks like a detailed description of our solar system." "They know about Earth?" Jake asked, feeling a chill run down his spine. "They know everything about Earth," Lisa said quietly. "They have maps of our cities, records of our history, even details about our technology. Captain, these aliens have been watching us for a very long time." Jake called his senior officers to the conference room. Admiral Paul Richards would want a full report, but first Jake needed to understand what they were dealing with. The beacon's message was unlike anything humans had imagined for first contact. Lisa explained what she had discovered. The beacon was an automated message system designed to give information to any species that found it. But the information was not what humans had hoped for. "The message is from something called the Terran Exclusion Confederation," Lisa said, reading from her notes. "It's made up of 43 different alien species. They've formed an alliance, but here's the problem. They specifically exclude humans from joining." "Why?" Kate asked. "According to their records, humans are classified as an aggressive expansionist species, Class 7 threat level. They consider us too dangerous to be allowed into their confederation." The room fell silent. Jake felt anger rising in his chest. Humans had worked for decades to become peaceful explorers, to leave behind the wars and conflicts of the past. They had united Earth under one government, ended poverty and hunger, and built ships to explore the stars with peaceful intentions. "There's more," Lisa continued. "The beacon contains detailed files about human history. They have records of every war we've ever fought, every conflict, every time humans have used violence to solve problems. They've been studying us since the 1800s. 200 years?" Jake said quietly. "They've been watching us for 200 years and never made contact." "The message also includes coordinates," Lisa said. "If we were any other species, these coordinates would lead us to a meeting place where we could apply to join their confederation. But for humans, the coordinates come with a warning: stay away or face the consequences." Jake stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the stars looked the same as always, but now he knew they were not alone. Somewhere out there, 43 alien species had decided that humans were too dangerous to be their friends. What kind of consequences? Kate asked. Lisa checked her notes again. "The message mentions containment protocols. I think they're planning to keep us trapped in our current territory. Jake turned back to his officers. How many human colonies do we have now? 12, Kate answered. All within 50 light years. Of Earth. We've been planning to expand further, but our ships are just reaching the edge of what we call human space. And they know about all of them? The beacon has the exact coordinates of every human colony, Lisa confirmed. They know where we live, how many people we have, what technology we use. They've been preparing for this moment. Jake felt a mixture of fear and anger. Humans had dreamed of meeting aliens for centuries. In every story, every movie, every book, first contact was either wonderful or terrible, but it was always dramatic. No one had imagined that aliens would simply ignore humans, treating them like dangerous animals to be kept in a cage. Captain, Kate said, what do we tell Admiral Richards? Jake knew this decision would change everything. The beacon's message was clear. Humans were not welcome in the galaxy. But humans had never been good at accepting rejection, especially when it came from people who had never given them a chance to prove themselves. We tell him the truth, Jake said. 43 species have decided we're too dangerous to be their friends. They want to keep us locked up in our corner of the galaxy like prisoners. And what do we do about it? Kate asked. Jake looked out at the stars again. Somewhere out there, alien species were living their lives, trading with each other, sharing technology, exploring the galaxy together. And they had decided that humans could not be part of it. We go home, Jake said. We report what we found. And then we let the people of Earth decide what to do about it. The Liberty turned around and began the long journey back to Earth. Jake spent the travel time reading the beacon's message over and over again. The aliens had good reasons for their decision. Humans did have a history of violence. Earth had seen countless wars, and even now, humans sometimes solved problems with force rather than words. But Jake also knew that humans had changed. They had learned from their mistakes. They had built a peaceful society and reached for the stars with open hands and good intentions. Didn't that count for something? 3 weeks later, the Liberty arrived at Earth's orbital station. Admiral Richards was waiting for them, along with representatives from every major government on Earth. The news of the beacon had traveled fast, and everyone wanted to know what it meant for humanity's future. Jake stood before the assembled leaders and told them what he had found. The room was quiet as he explained the Terran Exclusion Confederation and their decision to keep humans isolated. So they've been watching us, Admiral Richards said when Jake finished. For 200 years, they've been studying us, and they've decided we're too dangerous to be their friends. That's correct, sir, Jake replied. And they want to keep us trapped in our current territory? The message suggests they have ways to enforce containment if we try to expand beyond our current borders. Admiral Richards was quiet for a long moment. Then he looked up at Jake with determination in his eyes. Captain Morrison, I want you to prepare a detailed report for the Earth Defense Committee. Include everything: the beacon's location, the decoded message, your analysis of their intentions. Everything. Yes, sir. And Captain, Admiral Richards added, prepare the Liberty for another mission. If these aliens think they can keep us locked up like animals in a zoo, they're about to learn that humans don't stay caged for long. Jake felt a smile cross his face. The aliens had made their decision based on human history, but they were about to discover that humans had also learned from that history, including how to fight when fighting was the only option left. 3 months after Captain Morrison returned with news of the beacon, Ambassador Helen Brooks stood in the cargo bay of the U.S. Constitution, checking her diplomatic equipment one final time. Earth's leaders had decided to try talking to the aliens, even though the beacon's message had been clear about human exclusion. Are you sure about this, Ambassador? Asked Colonel Danny Roberts, the the military officer assigned to protect the diplomatic mission. These aliens have already made up their minds about us. Helen looked at the colonel with determination. Danny, humans have solved more problems with words than with weapons. We have to try. If we can just explain to them that we've changed, that we're not the same species that fought all those wars centuries ago, maybe they'll listen. Senator Richard Hayes, who had come to see them off, shook his head. I still think this is a waste of time. But the Earth Defense Committee voted, and we're giving diplomacy a chance. The Constitution was Earth's most advanced diplomatic vessel, designed specifically for first contact situations. It carried no weapons, only the most sophisticated communication equipment humans had ever built. The ship's hull was painted white with blue symbols representing peace and friendship. The journey to Wolf 359 took 2 weeks. The beacon had provided coordinates for a neutral meeting station where species could request to join the Confederation. Helen spent the travel time studying everything they knew about the 43 alien species and preparing her arguments for why humans deserved a chance. When they arrived at Wolf 359, Helen gasped at what she saw through the view screen. The Confederation's meeting station was enormous, larger than Earth's moon. It was built like a massive ring, with thousands of docking ports and gleaming towers reaching toward the center. Ships of dozens of different designs moved around it, like insects around a bright light. My God, Colonel Roberts whispered. How many species built this thing? All of them working together, Helen said quietly. This is what cooperation can accomplish. The Constitution was guided to a small docking port by automated systems. No one spoke to them directly, but the station's computers provided basic information about meeting procedures. Helen would be allowed to present humanity's case to the High Council, but the message was clear that this was just a formality. Inside the station, Helen was amazed by what she saw. Aliens of all shapes and sizes moved through the corridors together. Some looked almost human, while others were so strange that Helen had trouble understanding how they could be intelligent. But they all seemed to get along perfectly, talking and working together without any signs of conflict. A tall, blue-skinned alien approached them. It spoke through a translation device in perfect English. I am Veltar Nominus, High Speaker for the Zentari species. You are the human delegation? Yes, Helen replied. I am Ambassador Helen Brooks, representing the people of Earth. We're grateful for this opportunity to address the High Council. Veltar's large, dark eyes studied Helen carefully. Ambassador Brooks, I must tell you that this meeting is highly unusual. Never before has a species been granted an audience after being classified as a Class 7 threat. The Council agreed to this only because your species insisted. We appreciate the Council's time, Helen said diplomatically. We believe there may be some misunderstandings about humanity that we can clear up. Veltar led them through corridors filled with incredible technology. The walls seemed to be made of some kind of living crystal that glowed softly. The air was perfectly clean and fresh, and Helen could hear what sounded like music coming from somewhere in the distance. This station was built over 300 years ago, Veltar explained as they walked. It represents the greatest achievement of our Confederation, 43 species working together in perfect harmony. No wars, no conflicts, no violence of any kind. They entered a massive chamber with a domed ceiling that showed the stars outside. Arranged in a circle were 43 seats, each designed for a different alien species. At the center was a single chair where Helen would make her presentation as the council members took their seats. Helen felt nervous for the first time. These beings represented civilizations thousands of years old. Some of their species had been traveling between stars when humans were still living in caves. The Council recognizes Ambassador Helen Brooks of Earth, Veltar announced. You may present your case. Helen stood and activated her presentation display. She had prepared carefully, showing Earth's progress toward peace, the end of major wars, the unification of government, and humanity's achievements in science and exploration. "Honored council members," she began, "I come before you today to request that humanity be reconsidered for membership in your confederation. Yes, our species has a history of conflict, but we have learned from our mistakes. We have grown beyond our violent past." She showed images of Earth's cities, now clean and green, pictures of humans working together, helping each other, reaching for the stars with peaceful intentions. She talked about Earth's scientific achievements, their art, their music, their dreams of joining the galactic community. But as Helen spoke, she could see that the council members were not impressed. Some looked bored, others seemed almost angry. When she finished, the chamber was silent for a long moment. Veltar stood up. "Ambassador Brooks, the council appreciates your presentation. However, our decision stands. Humans are genetically predisposed to violence and territorial expansion. These traits cannot be changed by a few decades of peaceful behavior." "But we have changed," Helen protested. "Look at our achievements, our progress toward peace." Another council member, a creature that looked like a giant insect, clicked and buzzed before its translator spoke. "Human Brooks, your species has engaged in over 14,000 documented conflicts in the past 5,000 years. Your most recent global war ended less than 200 years ago. This is not the behavior of a peaceful species." A third alien, shaped like a living tree with glowing branches, added its voice. "Furthermore, human expansion follows predictable patterns of resource exploitation and territorial control. Your 12 colonies already show signs of competition for resources and strategic positioning." Helen felt her heart sinking. They had studied humanity in incredible detail, but they refused to see the positive changes. "What would it take for you to reconsider?" she asked desperately. Veltar exchanged looks with the other council members. "The council has decided to offer humanity 2 options. First, accept permanent containment within your current territory. We will provide basic trade agreements and technological assistance, but human expansion beyond your current 12 worlds will not be permitted." "And the second option?" Colonel Roberts asked, speaking for the first time. "Active containment measures," Veltar said coldly. "If humanity attempts to expand beyond approved boundaries, Confederation forces will intervene to protect innocent species from human aggression." Helen felt anger rising in her chest. "You're talking about making us prisoners in our own corner of space. How is that fair? You've never even given us a chance to prove ourselves." "Ambassador Brooks," Veltar said firmly, "the Council has reviewed over 2 centuries of human behavior. The evidence is clear. Your species cannot be trusted with unlimited expansion into galactic space." The meeting was over. Council members began filing out of the chamber, leaving Helen standing alone at the center. She had failed completely. Not only had humanity been denied membership, but they were now facing the threat of active military intervention if they tried to expand. Colonel Roberts approached her quietly. "Ambassador, I'm sorry. You did everything you could." Helen nodded slowly. During the presentation, she had noticed something important. The Confederation's security forces were impressive, but they were clearly designed for peacekeeping among cooperative species, not for fighting determined opponents. Their weapons seemed designed to disable rather than destroy. Their tactics appeared to be based on overwhelming technological superiority rather than combat experience. As they walked back to their ship, Helen made a mental note to include these observations in her report. The Confederation had made their position clear. Humans would be contained by force if necessary. But Helen suspected they had no idea what they were dealing with. Back on the Constitution, as Earth grew larger on the view screen, Helen prepared. her report for the Earth Defense Committee. The diplomatic mission had been a complete failure, but it had provided valuable intelligence about Confederation capabilities and intentions. What do you think will happen now? Colonel Roberts asked. Helen looked out at the stars, knowing that somewhere out there, 43 alien species were preparing to keep humanity locked in a cage. I think, she said quietly, these aliens are about to learn why it's dangerous. To corner a species that has survived everything Earth could throw at it. A constitution continued toward home, carrying news that would change the course of human history. Diplomacy had failed. Now other options would have to be considered. 6 months had passed since Ambassador Brooks returned from the failed diplomatic mission. General Frank Cooper stood in the command center of Earth's Orbital Defense Station, watching the holographic display that showed the edge of human space. Red dots marked the positions of Confederation ships that had begun patrolling the borders of human territory. General, we have another incident, reported Captain Alex Turner as he entered the command center. Turner was Earth's best test pilot and had been flying reconnaissance missions to gather intelligence on Confederation forces. The U's Defiance was conducting mineral surveys in the Vega sector when Confederation ships intercepted them. What happened? General Cooper asked, though he already suspected the answer. They were ordered to leave immediately. When Captain Johnson tried to explain that the system was unclaimed territory, the aliens opened fire. Warning shots. But the message was clear. General Cooper studied the tactical display. Over the past months, Confederation forces had systematically established checkpoints at every possible expansion route from human space. 3 colony ships carrying 50,000 settlers had been turned back from systems that Earth had planned to colonize. The alien blockade was working exactly as intended. Sir, said Dr. Maria Gonzalez, entering the command center with a thick file of data, I've finished analyzing the sensor readings from our encounters with Confederation ships. I think you need to see this. Dr. Gonzalez was Earth's leading expert on alien technology, and she had been studying every scrap of information they could gather about Confederation capabilities. She activated a holographic display showing the design of alien ships. Their technology is definitely more advanced than ours, she began. But there's something interesting about their weapon systems. Everything is designed for precision and minimal damage. Their energy weapons are calibrated to disable ship systems without destroying the vessel or harming the crew. That makes sense, General Cooper said. They're peacekeepers, not warriors. They want to stop conflicts, not create casualties. Exactly. But here's what's important. Their defensive systems follow the same pattern. They're designed to absorb and deflect energy weapons, but they're not optimized for kinetic impacts or rapid, concentrated attacks. Captain Turner leaned forward. With interest. You mean their shields can stop their own weapons, but maybe not ours? More than that, Dr. Gonzalez continued. Their entire military doctrine seems based on gradual escalation and defensive positioning. They establish overwhelming superiority and use it to force compliance without actually fighting. It's very effective against species that think the same way they do. General Cooper understood immediately, but not effective against someone willing to hit first and hit hard. General, said Lieutenant Ben Parker, one of the young officers monitoring communications, we're getting reports from all our border colonies. Confederation ships are conducting what they call compliance inspections of our facilities. They're not attacking, but they're making it clear that they're watching everything we do. The situation was becoming impossible. Earth's population was still growing, and they desperately needed new worlds to colonize. The Confederation's blockade was slowly strangling human expansion, but they were doing it so carefully that it was hard to call it an act of war. Sir, Captain Turner said quietly, there's something else. Long-range sensors have detected massive construction activity at the edge of the Sol system. The aliens are building something big. General Cooper felt a chill run down his spine. How big? From the energy readings, it looks like a permanent structure. Maybe a fortress or a monitoring station. But sir, if they're planning to put a permanent installation right at Earth's doorstep, the implications were clear. The Confederation wasn't just containing human expansion. They were preparing to watch Earth directly, maybe even control traffic in and out of the Sol system itself. General Cooper made a decision that he knew would change everything. Contact Admiral Richards. Tell him I'm recommending immediate authorization for Project Liberty Bell. Project Liberty Bell was Earth's most secret military program. While the diplomats had been trying to talk to the aliens, Earth's military had been preparing for the possibility that talking wouldn't work. They had been designing ships and weapons specifically to fight Confederation forces. 2 hours later, General Cooper stood before the Earth Defense Committee in an emergency session. Representatives from every major nation on Earth were present, along with Admiral Richards and other senior military officers. "The situation is clear," General Cooper told the assembled leaders. "The Confederation is not just blocking our expansion, they're preparing to control our home system. We have perhaps weeks before they complete whatever they're building out there." Senator Hayes, the committee chairman, looked grim. "General, are you recommending that Earth go to war with 43 alien species?" "I'm recommending that we defend our right to exist as a free species," General Cooper replied. "The Confederation has made their intentions clear. They plan to keep us caged forever, and now they're building the bars of that cage right outside our front door." Dr. Gonzalez presented her analysis of Confederation weaknesses. The alien ships were powerful, but designed for police actions, not warfare. Their weapons prioritized precision over destruction, and their tactics assumed that overwhelming technological superiority would force immediate surrender. "What they don't understand," General Cooper explained, "is that humans have a long history of fighting against superior forces when our survival is at stake. They think their advanced technology makes them invincible, but technology alone doesn't win wars." Admiral Richards stood up. "Project Liberty Bell has produced 12 new warships designed specifically to counter Confederation advantages. They're smaller and faster than alien vessels, built around the concept of concentrated firepower and rapid strike capability." "What are our chances?" asked the representative from the Asian Federation. "Unknown," General Cooper answered honestly. "We're facing technology centuries ahead of ours, backed by 43 different species with virtually unlimited resources. But we have advantages they don't expect. They've never fought a species that refuses to surrender. They've never faced opponents willing to use maximum force from the beginning of a conflict." The debate continued for hours. Some representatives argued for accepting Confederation terms and living within the boundaries they had set. Others insisted that humanity could never accept permanent imprisonment, no matter the cost of freedom. Finally, President Elizabeth Warren called for a vote. The decision was close, but the result was clear. Earth would not accept permanent containment. If the Confederation wanted to cage humanity, they would have to fight for the right to do it. "General Cooper," President Warren said formally, "you are authorized to take whatever action is necessary to break the Confederation blockade and secure humanity's right to free expansion. But remember, we're not trying to conquer these species. We're trying to prove that we deserve to be treated as equals." General Cooper saluted. "Understood, Madam President. Operation Liberty Bell will commence immediately." As the committee meeting ended, Captain Turner approached General Cooper privately. "Sir, do you really think we can win against odds like these?" General Cooper looked out the window at Earth, spinning below them. Billions of people lived down there, dreaming of the stars, building families, creating art and music and literature. They deserve the chance to spread that creativity and hope throughout the galaxy. "Captain," he said quietly, 43 alien species have decided that humans are too dangerous to be allowed freedom. They've studied our history and concluded that we can't be trusted. Maybe they're right about our capacity for violence, but they're wrong about something important." "What's that, sir?" "They think our history of warfare makes us unfit for civilization. But I think it makes us very good at protecting civilization when it's threatened. These aliens have never had to fight for their freedom because no one ever tried to take it away. They're about to learn what happens when you try to cage a species that has spent its entire history fighting for the right to be free." Captain Turner nodded and headed for his ship. Within hours, the first human warships in history would launch toward the Confederation blockade. The age of diplomacy was over. The age of proving human worth through strength was about to begin. In orbit around Earth, 12 ships prepared for a battle that would determine the future of humanity among the stars. Captain Steve Mitchell stood on the bridge of the UES Minuteman, watching the Confederation blockade station grow larger on his view screen. The massive alien structure hung in space like a mechanical spider, its weapons pointed toward human space. Around it, dozens of Confederation ships moved in careful patrol patterns. "All ships, this is Captain Mitchell," he spoke into his communicator. "Operation Liberty Bell is now active. Remember, we hit hard and we hit fast. The aliens expect us to surrender when they show superior force. Let's prove them wrong." The Minuteman was the first ship built specifically for war that humanity had ever constructed. It was smaller than the alien vessels, but packed with weapons designed to punch through their defenses. 11 other human warships formed up behind Mitchell, each one carrying the hopes of Earth's billions. "Captain," said Commander Lisa Hayes from her tactical station, "alien ships are moving to intercept us. They're broadcasting surrender demands on all frequencies." "Ignore them," Mitchell ordered. "All ships, attack pattern Delta. Hit the blockade station's main power core." The human fleet split into 3 groups, approaching the alien station from different angles. The Confederation ships moved to block them, but they were slow to react. They had expected the humans to negotiate or retreat when faced with superior numbers. "Confederation vessels are charging weapons," Hayes reported. "Energy signatures match their standard disabling weapons." "Fire all weapons," Mitchell commanded. The Minuteman's main guns opened up, sending streams of kinetic projectiles toward the blockade station. The other human ships followed suit, focusing their fire on specific target points that Dr. Gonzalez had identified as critical systems. The Confederation forces were shocked by the human tactics. Instead of energy weapons that could be deflected by shields, the humans were using solid projectiles that punched through defenses like bullets through paper. Instead of the gradual escalation that alien military doctrine expected, the humans had opened with maximum firepower from the very beginning. "Direct hits on the station's power grid," Hayes reported with excitement. "Their shields are fluctuating." "Major." "Bradley, you're clear for boarding action." Mitchell ordered. Major Tom Bradley led the first human Space Marines unit ever created. His soldiers were trained for something that no Confederation species had ever considered necessary: fighting inside spaceships and stations. As the Minuteman moved close to the damaged blockade station, Bradley's team launched in small assault pods. The Confederation crew aboard the station had no idea what to do. Their automated defenses were designed to stop ships, not individual soldiers moving through the corridors. The alien crew members had never been trained for hand-to-hand combat because such fighting had never existed in their peaceful society. "Station secured," Bradley reported 20 minutes later. "The alien crew surrendered immediately when we reached the command center. They kept asking us why we were being violent instead of negotiating." Captain Mitchell allowed himself a small, Smile. The Confederation's greatest strength, their complete unity and peaceful nature, was also their greatest weakness when facing opponents who understood that sometimes violence was the only language that worked. "Captain," Hayes said urgently, "long-range sensors are detecting massive Confederation fleet movements. Looks like they're sending reinforcements. How many ships?" "Over 100, sir. They're coming from 6 different directions." Mitchell opened communications to all human ships. "All vessels, fall back to Rally Point Alpha. We've made our point here. Time to show them that breaking out of their cage was just the beginning." The human fleet retreated, but not in defeat. They had accomplished their primary objective, proving that Confederation containment could be broken. More importantly, they had captured detailed information about alien technology from the blockade station. 3 days later, Admiral Sarah Johnson stood in the command center of the UES Enterprise, studying tactical displays that showed Confederation fleet movements throughout the region. As commander of the Second Earth Fleet, her job was to expand the breakthrough that Mitchell's attack had created. "Admiral," reported her aide, "we're receiving surrender demands from the Confederation High Council. They're offering to negotiate if we return to our original territory." "What are our colony ships reporting?" Johnson asked. "The UES New Hope and the UES Frontier have successfully established beachhead colonies in the Kepler and Vega systems. Both report that Confederation forces in those areas retreated when our warships approached." Johnson nodded with satisfaction. The strategy was working exactly as planned. By proving that human forces could defeat Confederation defenses, they had created doubt and hesitation among the alien species. Some Confederation members were beginning to question whether containing humanity was worth the cost in ships and lives. "Admiral," said Captain Mary Foster, "we're receiving reports from our intelligence networks. Several Confederation species are holding emergency meetings about the human situation. The Centauri are demanding immediate military action, but at least 6 other species are calling for renewed diplomatic contact." This was exactly what Earth's leaders had hoped for. The Confederation had been united in their decision to exclude humanity because they thought humans could be easily contained. Now that humans had proven they couldn't be caged without a fight, cracks were appearing in the alien alliance. "Sir," reported the communications officer, "the UES Washington is requesting immediate support. They've encountered a major Confederation fleet near the Ross system." Johnson studied the tactical display. Captain David Kim's ship was outnumbered 20 to 1, but the Confederation forces were maintaining distance instead of attacking immediately. They had learned to be cautious around human vessels. "Send the 3rd Squadron to support the Washington," Johnson ordered, "and signal Captain Kim to maintain position, but avoid engagement unless attacked directly." The human strategy was working better than anyone had dared hope. Instead of trying to conquer Confederation territory, human forces were demonstrating that containment was impossible. Every system that humans entered, they could hold. Every boundary the Confederation tried to establish, humans could cross. But the real victory was psychological. For centuries, the Confederation species had lived in a galaxy where conflicts were resolved through negotiation and technological superiority. The idea that a species might simply refuse to accept defeat was completely foreign to them. "Admiral," Foster said quietly, "we're getting reports that some Confederation species are withdrawing their ships from containment duties. The Dalari and the Corvin have both recalled their fleets to home territory. They're scared," Johnson realized. They joined the Confederation to ensure peace and safety. Now they're facing the first real war any of them have seen in centuries. And they want no part of it. The human breakout continued for 3 more weeks. Earth's forces didn't try to hold territory or establish permanent bases. Instead, they kept moving, proving over and over that Confederation containment was impossible. Human ships appeared in dozens of systems that the aliens had thought were permanently secured. The psychological impact on Confederation species was devastating. Some had lived for so long in peace that they had forgotten that such things as war even existed. Others remembered war from their ancient history, but had never imagined facing it again. Captain Mitchell, now promoted to admiral after his successful attack on the blockade station, received new orders that made him smile. Earth's government had decided it was time to make their ultimate statement. All fleet commanders, he broadcast to every human warship, Operation Liberty Bell Phase 2 is now active. Destination: Wolf 359. It's time to knock on their front door. The Confederation capital station at Wolf 359 had been the symbol of alien unity and peaceful cooperation for centuries. It had never been threatened, never been attacked, never even seen a hostile ship approach its borders. That was about to change. Captain Jake Morrison, the explorer who had first discovered the alien beacon, now commanded the UES Liberty as part of the fleet heading toward the Confederation capital. As they prepared to enter jump space for the final leg of their journey, Morrison opened a communication channel to all ships. "This is Admiral Morrison," he said formally. "6 months ago, we learned that 43 alien species had decided humans were too dangerous to be their friends. They wanted to keep us locked in a cage forever. Today, we're going to knock on their door and explain that humans don't stay caged. We're going there to talk, not to fight. But we're going there armed and unafraid, ready to prove that we deserve to be treated as equals." The human fleet jumped toward Wolf 359, carrying with them the hopes of every person on Earth and its colonies. The age of human containment was over. The age of human membership in the galactic community was about to begin. President Elizabeth Warren stood at the observation deck of the UES Constitution II, watching the massive Confederation capital station grow larger as they approached Wolf 359. 6 months of warfare had changed everything. The pristine alien structure now showed signs of damage from human raids, and Confederation ships moved in defensive formations that would have been unthinkable before humans broke free from containment. "Madam President," said Admiral Chris Thompson, the hero of the Battle of Kepler Station, "Confederation forces are maintaining distance, but they're not targeting us." "I think they want to talk as much as we do." Elizabeth nodded. The past months had been costly for both sides. Earth had lost 37 ships and over 3,000 personnel, but Confederation losses were much higher. More importantly, the psychological damage to the alien alliance had been severe. 12 species had withdrawn from Confederation. Military operations and several others were demanding immediate negotiations with humanity. "Dr. Kim, what's your assessment of Confederation morale?" Elizabeth asked. Dr. Robert Kim was Earth's leading expert on alien psychology, and he had spent months studying captured Confederation communications and interrogation reports from alien prisoners. "Madam President, they're terrified. Most of these species haven't experienced warfare in centuries. Some have never experienced it at all. They joined the Confederation to ensure permanent peace, and now they're facing something they don't understand." Captain Mary Foster, commanding the escort fleet, approached with a concerned expression. "Ma'am, we're receiving reports from our intelligence network. The Zentari are pushing for what they call final solution protocols against humanity. They want to destroy Earth entirely to end the threat we represent." Elizabeth felt a chill. The Zentari had been the most vocal opponents of human inclusion from the beginning, and they seemed to be the only Confederation species actually willing to escalate the conflict. How much support do they have? That's the interesting part. Dr. Kim replied, "Very little. Most Confederation species are horrified by the idea." The Dalari representative apparently walked out of their council session when the Zentari suggested planetary bombardment. The Corvin called it unthinkable barbarity. They're learning that there are things worse than losing a war. As the Constitution II approached the capital station, Elizabeth could see the damage that human raids had caused. The once perfect structure now had whole sections sealed off with emergency barriers. The beautiful crystal towers that had impressed Ambassador Brooks were scarred with blast marks. "Admiral Thompson," Elizabeth said, "I want you to understand something. We're not here as conquerors. We're here to end this war and find a way for humans to live peacefully with these species. But we're also here to make sure they understand that humanity will never accept being caged." The Constitution II docked at the same port where Ambassador Brooks had arrived months earlier. But this time, the human delegation was escorted by a fleet of warships that had proven their ability to fight against any odds. Vel Tar Nominus, the Zentari High Speaker, was waiting for them in the same chamber where the first diplomatic mission had failed. But the blue-skinned alien looked very different now. His confident demeanor was gone, replaced by obvious exhaustion and stress. "President Warren," Vel Tar said through his translator, "the High Council has agreed to hear your terms for ending hostilities." Elizabeth took her seat at the center of the chamber, but this time she was not alone. Admiral Thompson stood behind her, representing the military force that had made this meeting possible. Dr. Kim was at her side, ready to help navigate the complex psychology of species who had never faced defeat. "High Speaker Vel Tar," Elizabeth began, "I want to be clear about something. Humanity doesn't want to conquer your confederation or destroy your way of life. We simply want the same thing we've always wanted, the right to exist as a free species, and to expand into the galaxy like any other intelligent race." Vel Tar looked around the chamber at the other council members. Many seats were empty. Several species had refused to attend, while others had sent only minor representatives. The Confederation's unity had been shattered by the human conflict. "President Warren," Vel Tar said carefully, "the Council recognizes that our initial assessment of human intentions may have been ... incomplete. However, your species' actions over the past months have confirmed our concerns about human aggression." Elizabeth felt anger rising but kept her voice calm. "High Speaker, we tried diplomacy first. Ambassador Brooks came here in peace, asking only for the chance to prove that humanity had changed. You refused to even consider it. You established military blockades around our territory and threatened us with active containment. What did you expect us to do?" "We expected you to accept the reasonable limitations necessary for galactic peace," Vel Tar replied. "You expected us to accept permanent imprisonment," Admiral Thompson said bluntly. "Your confederation decided to cage humanity based on historical data without ever giving us a chance to prove ourselves. You created the very conflict you claimed you wanted to prevent." Dr. Kim stepped forward. "High Speaker, may I ask you something? In all your studies of human history, did you ever notice that humans fight hardest when they're cornered? That we become most dangerous when someone tries to take away our freedom?" Vel Tar was quiet for a moment. "Yes, we observed this pattern. It was part of our threat assessment. Then you should have realized that trying to contain us would guarantee the war you were trying to prevent." Dr. Kim continued, "By excluding us, you made conflict inevitable." Around the chamber, other council members were listening carefully. A representative of the Corvin species, who looked like a massive bear covered in golden fur, spoke up. "The human speaks truth. Our own analysts predicted that permanent containment would eventually lead to conflict. We voted for exclusion anyway, because we feared human expansion more than human resistance." Elizabeth saw her opportunity. "That's exactly the point. You were so afraid of what humans might do that you never considered what we were actually doing. You looked at our past and ignored our present. You saw our capacity for violence, but ignored our capacity for growth. What do you propose?" asked a council member from the Nalari species, creatures that looked like living clouds of gas held together by some kind of energy field. Elizabeth stood up. Full membership in the Confederation for Humanity. Equal representation, equal rights, equal responsibilities. In exchange, Earth pledges to follow Confederation laws regarding expansion and colonization. We'll work within your system, not outside it. And if we refuse? Veltar asked. Admiral Thompson smiled grimly. Then you'll continue to try containing a species that has proven containment is impossible. How many more ships are you willing to lose? How many more of your member species are going to withdraw from military operations when they realize that peace sometimes requires fighting for it? The chamber erupted in discussions as council members talked among themselves in dozens of different languages. Elizabeth could see that the Confederation was deeply divided. Some species wanted to continue the war, others wanted immediate peace, and many were simply confused about how to deal with a situation their peaceful society had never prepared them for. After an hour of debate, Veltar called for order. The council will recess to consider your proposal. However, I must ask, how do we know that human membership won't eventually lead to the very conflicts we sought to prevent? Elizabeth looked around the chamber at the representatives of 43 alien species. High Speaker, you can't prevent all conflicts by excluding everyone who might cause them. Peace isn't the absence of dangerous people. It's the presence of systems that channel dangerous people toward productive ends. Humans have the capacity for violence, yes, but we also have the capacity for protection, for innovation, for sacrifice in defense of others. You want to know how we'll behave as Confederation members? Admiral Thompson added. Look at how we fought this war. We could have targeted civilian populations, destroyed your colonies, used the same ruthless tactics your historical records show humans using in the past. Instead, we focused on military targets and minimized casualties even when it put our own people at risk. Dr. Kim nodded. Your Confederation excluded us because you thought our violent nature made us unfit for civilization. But our violent nature is exactly what makes us good at protecting civilization when it's threatened. You've spent centuries building a beautiful, peaceful society. Don't you want someone around who knows how to defend it? 3 days later, the council reconvened. Elizabeth waited as Veltar stood to deliver their decision. The High Council of the Terran Exclusion Confederation has voted, he announced. By a margin of 31 to 12, we accept humanity's proposal for full membership. The Confederation will be restructured as the Galactic Confederation, with humanity as the 44th member species. Elizabeth felt relief wash over her. But Veltar wasn't finished. However, he continued, human membership comes with specific responsibilities. Earth will provide military consultation to Confederation defense forces. Human tactical doctrine will be integrated into our defensive planning, and humanity will take the lead in protecting Confederation space from external threats.